I wanted to share with you guys some information about inner defense, and more than just information, more just why I choose to use it and how I've used it and how you can use it for yourself as well. If you are not familiar with inner defense is one of Young Living's essential oil supplements. So the oils come all pre-mixed in the supplement, and it's ready for you to just start taking it. It is a larger capsule than if you were making your own OO capsules. So it's not necessarily easy for kids to always swallow it, but you can get something like a Medi straw and swallow it down. So it is a larger size for the capsule. So you could have kids take it. I would just, see how well does your child work with swallowing pills. Probably something around 12 would be when I would start using inner defense. I did use it for Sophia sooner than that. When she was very little, when she was 2 or 3, I looked at the ingredients that are in inner defense. So I looked up, it's a blend of thieves. So it has the clove and the lemon and the cinnamon bark and the eucalyptus that we are familiar with in our thieves blend, but it also has the addition of oregano, lemongrass, marjoram, and thyme with it as well. And when you start building on top of thieves with those other powerhouse immune system oils, you really end up with something that is going to be a lot more aggressive and a lot more attacking than thieves would be by itself. Like thieves is a very gentle way to just assist your immune system and keep it functioning at its absolute best. Inner defense would be taking it a step further. Like, I'm going to very aggressively support my immune system at this time for this reason. So what I did with Sophia when she was 2 or 3 was I took my thieves, I took my lemongrass, I took my thyme and oregano, and I mixed them together in a roller and just heavily diluted it and applied it to her feet. If you don't want to make your own recipe with that and you want to use the inner defense, you can pierce the capsule and smear that on a younger child's foot as well. But for an adult, you can take 1 of the capsules per day. You could take up to 3 to 5 per day, depending on what you're dealing with and why you want to do it. One of the things that I recommend to people and what I do for myself and my family is we like to muscle test. How many does my body want right now? How long should I take it? And just asking those questions and then going with what is going to work with me. Sometimes I just take 1 a day for a month. Sometimes I'll take 3 to 5 a day for a week. And that's what my body needs right now for the situation. One of the things that you want to keep in mind when you use inner defense is about 8 hours later, it is extremely important to take a probiotic, take our Life 9, and just do what we call a weed and feed type situation. So there's people on both sides of the evidence that say when you take oils that are very aggressive against bacteria internally, it could wipe out all bacteria, good or bad. What you want is for the bad bacteria to get kicked out and removed from the situation. So when the bad bacteria is removed and possibly some of the good, one of the things that you want to come in afterwards is put the good bacteria and the probiotics back in. And the cool thing with our Life 9 is the way that it's set up, it not only helps to feed the good bacteria, but it also helps it to be sticky and stay within that area. So as the bad bacteria is getting pulled out of your gut and your digestive system, and you're bringing in and you're replanting what you want in there instead, you have that kind of symbiotic relationship where one's coming through and just kind of cleaning, and the other one is putting in what you want in there. Why would you want to use inner defense? Like, what would be something that would make you say, hey, I need to take this? When you're traveling, it's a really good idea to use inner defense before, during, and after you come home. You're in a completely new environment with a different set of germs than you are typically around on a consistent basis in your home. When your child is going off to camp, or if you have somebody who travels for work a lot, it's really good to have this as an option to be using as it's needed. During the winter months, when we tend to be more closed up indoors and a lot of the air that we're getting is just recycled, or we're just around people and all the air is getting recycled a lot, sometimes you can just kind of get stuck in a cycle of not feeling your greatest, and it just kind of perpetuates and it spreads through everybody in the house. Inner defense is a great one to just kind of stop everything in its track, just get everyone's immune system fine-tuned and at its absolute best for fighting whatever is happening, and just maintaining the wellness that you can enjoy in the summer through the winter months as well, without having a lot of issues with that. Another way that lets me know I need to start using inner defense is if my digestive system is just really off. Like, I'm feeling bloated, I'm feeling gassy, I'm maybe reacting to foods that I normally don't, or I'm just feeling kind of like off when I eat certain foods. That's a good sign that your digestive system needs somebody to come in there and maybe do a 1, 2, 3 count on some of those bad bacteria. I had a really good friend who he had got sick, recovered from it, and years later, he was still feeling like his digestive system was just a mess and everything was just kind of like off with it. And he made some comment to me. He's like, I would love to go back in time and just be like, have the stomach I had before this happened. So I told him, I said, you know what, take a bottle of Inner Defense, take a bottle of Life 9. And depending on how you do with it, sometimes the capsule opens up and it's a little too much for you. So you need to take Inner Defense at night right before you go to bed and take your Life 9 in the morning. For other people, it's best to take your Inner Defense with food. So take an Inner Defense in the morning and take your Life 9 at night. So feel free to play around with it. It's not wrong if you do it in the morning or night. Just make sure that you follow it up with the Life 9. So for 30 days, he took an Inner Defense every single day. 8 hours later, he took his Life 9, and he called me about 3 weeks in, and he's like, is this going to sound weird? I have not had any problems, and I'm just realizing like how different it is. And I'm like, that's awesome. Keep going. So he finished up with this 30 days, and then we ran into each other, and he gave me this huge hug, and he's like, whatever voodoo magic those 2 bottles of pills worked on my digestive system, thank you for telling me about it, because I am in a completely different place, and I got my wish. I got the digestive system back that I was missing. So whatever went wonky in there, whatever upset everything, with an illness that he had, something was just kind of stuck in there and it needed to get cleaned out, and he kind of needed to be reset. It's something that if you talk to a vet and you have an animal that their digestive system just kind of gets off, they will tell you, be very specific about the food that you eat, allow them to get their gut to reset. There's a couple things that you can do to clear everything out, and then you want to build it back up. Why can't we do that with humans as well? And that's exactly what we have with Inner Defense and Life 9. It gives you an opportunity when you do it for the 30-day period to just kind of clear everything out and build it back up, because unlike our animals, we're probably not going to be okay with eating just some bland rice and some hamburger and some pumpkin until our digestive system resets. So Inner Defense is a really easy way for us to do that. Like I said, you can do that with your kids. If they don't do well swallowing, you can use the capsule or make your own blend and use it topically on the stomach or on the spine or on the feet, and follow the digestive system of your foot and just move it in the same manner as how your digestive system moves when you look at the picture of your foot. One of the other things that lets me know that I need to take care of something in my gut is when my skin gets really off. And I'm not just talking about like occasionally breaking out because your hormonal system is cycling through its next run. I mean, your skin looks horrible. You get like eczema-like stuff or some sort of rash or some sort of like massive amount of acne that is completely abnormal to you. Like this is something that you just normally don't get. And one of the things that our gut likes to do is it will have a conversation with us through our skin, unfortunately. So when I'm starting to break out, especially if you Google a face mapping, especially in digestive areas or like my kidneys and my liver and stuff, when I start to break out in that, that's when I start muscle testing. Do I need to be taking inner defense? Is this something that I need to have the oregano and the thyme and the lemongrass and the thieves come in and just like handle something? So taking my inner defense at that time, my skin will clear up faster from going at it internally than if I go at it externally. One of the other things that I would encourage anybody to be using inner defense with is if you, especially like around the holidays, if you have been eating a lot more sugar and a lot more high processed foods than you normally do, and then you get into a stressful situation. I'm just using the holidays for an example because we tend to eat a lot of food that we normally don't eat, or somebody else brings it over, and holidays are stressful in and of themselves. And then you get stressed out and you look at, sorry, I just had to meet someone. You start looking at how you're run down and you're not feeling well. One of the things that can help set you up so that you can feel good before you can get all of the stress removed is taking your inner defense, just to keep your digestive system healthy, keep your immune system at its absolute best, and then to keep you from crashing until you can get your stressful situation taken care of. The other way that I recommend using inner defense, and I use it for myself, is I have a couple autoimmune that just have a very negative impact on my immune system. So one of the ways that I make sure that I stay ahead of anything that's happening is I'll use inner defense to keep my immune system functioning at its best, so that when something triggers my autoimmune to flare up, I don't also have to worry about a continuous spiral down with my health and then have to come back from that. So it's a really good way of just kind of holding me in a spot until I can take care of whatever's happening with my immune system, and just not letting me go further down the hill, just keeping me where I am so that I can keep going forward instead of fighting backwards. So that's how I use inner defense. That's how I'd recommend using it as well. And don't forget, after you've used inner defense, to use your Life 9 afterwards. If you do find yourself in a situation where you're needing to take 3 to 5 a day for a period of time, do not freak out and think, oh no, I have to every 8 hours, I can't use Life 9 and then have another 8 hours before. It's okay for a period of time to do that. And then afterwards, you can just use a lot more of your Life 9 in the evening by taking like 4 or 5 at night before you go to bed to just reline the gut. So sometimes you do have to skip a day or two of Life 9. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. I just wouldn't, for long term, go like an entire month with inner defense and not take any Life 9. I would take it for a period of time and make sure you build everything up with the Life 9 before you go back onto something heavy. All right, Bonnie or Kara, do you guys have anything to share?
So inner defense is one of our go-to supplements for sure. And so a couple of ways, you know, in addition to what Sarah has shared, definitely the travel thing. We will start inner defense like 1 a day before we travel, a week out at least, through travel, and after travel, just because of the difference in, it causes your body stress to be outside of your normal thing. But like anytime you feel like, and I will say this, for me this year, I mean, we've always had inner defense. It's one of those things that I keep several jars in the cabinet, because when you need it, you want it right now. You don't want to be waiting on an order. So do yourself a favor, put it on your next order. I mean, get 1 or 2 bottles just to have, because sometimes when you're using it, you go through 1 bottle pretty quick, depending on how you're using it. So that is like, we keep at least 5 bottles, at least 5 in our cabinet, because we go through it a lot. This year, I will say I started using, I've never done this before. I've usually had my seasons that I've used it, but this year I started using it back the first part of November, no, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, because I had, my dad had like almost died and was in the hospital in Kansas City, and I had to catch a flight really quick and go and sit at the hospital with him for a couple weeks. And it was during, flu season was big, and so I was like, not gonna get sick. I'm going in and out of this hospital every day, right? So I started taking inner defense, and I muscle test like Sarah does, and I was taking like 2 a day during that period of time. And then I was traveling, right? And then I came home, and then COVID hit, and it was kind of like, and then there was all this flu and COVID and all this. And so I just kept on. And so I have literally taken at least 1 inner defense a day since back in November, and I've never taken it for this long a period of time. But I definitely, my system is just still telling me, and like I said, I'm taking 1 a day, but there have been weeks or periods of time where maybe I'll go up to 2 a day. Now, in general, if I start feeling a little bit under the weather or a little bit stressed, I will normally grab a bottle and start taking it pretty heavily. Like if I started to feel like I was coming down with something, that would be one of my first go-tos, is I would grab my inner defense, and I would probably take, I'd muscle test, but generally I kind of hit it hard. Like I'll do 4 a day to start with, and then I'll kind of see how I'm doing. But usually after a couple of days, then I kind of go back down to maybe 2 a day and 1 a day or something, and it kicks things really quick for me. Jerry has been on inner defense as high as 8 a day. It does start, I do feel like I need to do it with food. It can kind of, you start feeling like you're burping thieves, especially if you're taking more than a couple a day. You can start feeling like you're burping thieves. So take it even with crackers, or eat, just a handful of crackers will do it, something like that. And different people have different things. So you just kind of have to know your body. But when he is seriously, and his immune system isn't real strong because of years and years of antibiotics and all sorts of things. So he can tend to get things pretty quickly. And so inner defense is one of our go-tos, but he will hit it hard like 8. I think he has even taken as many as 10 a day, and that's a lot. That's a lot of inner defense. And he doesn't do that very often at all. But if he really feels like, he needs it, he will do that. But generally, he doesn't take that. And so, but for us, we have really found that we needed it this year in particular. And maybe it's the stresses, maybe it's the, just making sure, but like I said, we muscle test, and we do feel like we have taken it every day, which is the first kind of season we've taken it this long every single day. So, but I usually take it first thing in the morning so I can do my probiotic at night. So.
Okay, I'm going to add a couple things in here, only because today is my third day of ever taking inner defense. As I like to tell Sarah, I'm going to start calling her Dr. Kessler because I learned from her. So something that I learned personally this week is if you have, especially for skin issues, if there is any sort of infection and you're putting things on topically and it does not work, you have to go internal. And I never knew that in 5 years. I've never learned that. So I don't like taking pills, and so it's been a challenge for me, but I've done it. And so they do make a big difference. I did scan for that too. Now I'm going to ask a couple questions, Sarah, because you're talking about this one for the new people like me who may not know something like this. So a lot of people don't know how to muscle test. And so like if you're brand new to oils and anything, how does someone know, like, okay, we can get the fact of, okay, I'm starting to feel funny. My immune system, I can tell I'm off. I know I should take one. How does someone know, like what would you suggest? Should they be taking 1 to 2 to 3? I know the bottle says take 1 a day. And then if you want to take the, like it can say take up to 3. When would you tell someone, I'm going to ask you these questions just because I'm newer, and so the new people listening to this down the road, when would someone take 1 and when should someone take 3?
I would say start with 1. And if you don't notice a difference right away, because our oils work very quickly, you yourself noticed within hours, you noticed a change start to happen when you took your inner defense and when you were taking your oils internally. So if you don't notice something within a couple hours, then you didn't take enough or you need more, especially if you go just 1 a day and the next day you don't feel any different. There is more fight going on than just 1 inner defense can handle. So how I muscle test, I just use the sway because that's the easiest for me. I wasn't trained in kinesiology, so for me, like learning it like my chiropractor does, I just went the easiest route. And you can stand with your feet flat on the floor, shoulder width apart, and you just hold your hands over your stomach and you want to say a true statement. So I'll stand and I'll put my hands over my belly button and I'll say, my name is Sarah. And depending on how you sway is your true answer. It's your yes, is how you explain it. So you can say, my name is Sarah, and I move forward. That's a typical response. There are some people where it's like, what is it called? There's a shift and they're responding away instead of forward for a yes. So that's why you want to find out what yours is. And then just to double check and make sure everything is on point, then you would say a false answer. Like, my name is Barry, and then I would move backwards. So then I would take the bottle of inner defense, especially when this comes up on your Zyto and it comes up on a scan, a Zyto or an Itobi, and you go, oh, inner defense. I wonder how many I should take because the back says 1 to 3. That's kind of broad. Hold the supplement over your stomach, like right over your belly button, with your feet shoulder width apart, and then just say, will this benefit me? Or some question like that, like, should I take 1 of these? Will this benefit me? And usually what I do, just because like I move really fast when I muscle test, I say, do I need 1? Do I need 2? Do I need 3? Do I need 4? And I just, like, my body just goes like this, and then all of a sudden it stops when I hit a point and it goes backwards. And then I figure out, like, if I said 5, do I need 5? But then 6, I stop and I say, can I take 5? And if I go forward, then I know, like, hey, that was true. But I'm like, I don't know why I go fast, maybe because I'm trying to trick myself. But then I'll also ask a question, do I need to take 1 every 2 hours? Yes or no? Do I need to take 2, 3 times a day? Yes or no? And I'll ask, because sometimes my body wants 3 right now, 1 at lunch, 1 at dinner. And it's just what's going on. Because if it needs to bring all of the firepower in the beginning of the day and then just have a consistent release later, then I'll do 3 in the morning and then 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the evening. And my body has something to fight, and then I'll muscle test again in the morning. Sometimes I'll ask how many days should I do it like that, and then I'll just do it for as many days. But I just have a piece of paper and I write everything down, so I know. And you can tell a difference. Like you can tell a difference if you're taking enough pretty quick.
Okay, and then one last question, only because I'm newer with it, and you helped me with it, so this is going to help someone else down the road. So taking, like, going internal with oils, I know, so this is a new thing in the last couple of days, and I did it, and I started itching. And if you're anyone like me, you freak out. It's good that we have an oily community, and then you call someone like Bonnie or call someone like Sarah, and like, okay, I'm itching. So what I've learned from Sarah is, so you take something like this, that is getting rid of it's getting rid of the stuff. And so like what Sarah had said to do is take like the lavender, lemon, peppermint, or Melissa, or like put them in the capsules. And so by doing that, it's helping with, Sarah, you explained what you told me. It's going to be better coming from you. But if you're someone, and I heard that it's normal, if you're brand new to taking inner defense, this is something that you don't need to freak out about, but this is what can happen. So tell us about that.
So we hear in the oily community or the natural community that people can herx, where they can have a whole bunch of something flood their system. The other thing that can happen is you can have candida die off. And when you go after some of that bad, not beneficial bacteria, it dies, and it's an overwhelm to the system. So when you have a lot of that candida, you can feel kind of crappy. You can feel like your body is aching like the flu. You might have pain in joint areas. You might have itching. It's a little different for everybody else. Sometimes I've heard some people explain it like, it feels like bees are loose in my body, and they're just going like this on like everything. So candida die-off is kind of unfortunately, that's kind of a normal thing if you're taking thieves or digize internally, because both of those are very aggressive against candida. So one of the things that I suggested to Kara that helps me is to reset my histamine response, because my body is so overwhelmed that it's just overreacting to everything. And if I can just kind of bring myself back to base zero, I can handle it. So lavender is really good at just resetting your histamine response, bringing you back to zero, resetting if you're like overreacting to something because of how it works with your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Melissa is like a next level. So if you're trying to just bring yourself back to base and lavender is not strong enough, you need Melissa, because Melissa is very good at just saying, stop, we're done. And that was part of the benefit and the reason that we have the St. Marie's lavender, because the St. Marie's lavender was growing right alongside the Melissa. So it was like lavender, St. Marie's lavender, Melissa, when it comes to just helping with that histamine response and bringing everything back. And then I told you just to be very careful with inflammation, because that's the other thing that you want to look for. And if your body is inflamed and then it gets irritated, it's like everything just gets worse. So.
Good. I think that's good. That'll be good information for people to have in the future on the benefit of this. Oh, and one last thing. So when you're if someone is taking it multiple times a day, you still want to take a probiotic, right? I mean, it's just best to be doing it 8 hours, but still take your probiotic, lengthen it as far as you can from it, correct?
Yeah, but it is okay if it takes like 3 to 4 days before you can get the probiotic in. If you are taking 3 to 5 inner defense throughout the day, your bad bacteria is not really going to have a chance to set up a new home. So as soon as you get to a point where your body is saying, hey, we can just take a little bit of a step back, we don't need to be quite as aggressive right now. What you were hitting really hard at in the beginning is under control. and we're starting to have some homeostasis here, that's when I would say grab a handful of your Life 9, take like 4 of them at once, and just flood that area. Yes, not all of them are going to stick, but it's kind of like throwing everything at the wall type of scenario, and then just go back to your like 1 Life 9 a day. When I had to reset my daughter's gut because she had been on a lot of antibiotics, we did Life 9, and we did fermented foods, and we did kombucha, and we did kefir, the dairy and the water. And it was just like, I just filled her up with every possible combination of a probiotic that I could throw at her. And she did a complete 180 with her immune system just by I threw everything I could inside of her, and it made a huge difference.